Thank you everyone for joining today. Today we have our Health Outcomes Seminar Series, the first seminar for the fall semester. The seminar series is sponsored jointly by the Center for Pharmacoepidemiology and Economic Research and by our Center for Clinical and Translational Science. And today's speaker is going to be introduced by Dr. Stephanie Crawford as a very close collaborator. So Stephanie, please take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Natasha. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
It is my pleasure and truly my privilege to introduce the first speaker for this academic year seminar series, Andrew Boyd. Dr. Boyd is Assistant Professor in the Department of Biomedical and Health Information Science here at UIC. He has joint faculty appointments in the Department of Medical Education and the Department of Physical Therapy. He is also the lead medical informatician for the UIC Center for Clinical and Translational Science. Andy received his undergraduate degree magna cum laude in chemistry and mathematics from Southern Methodist University in Dallas. He attended medical school for his MD degree at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical School in Dallas. His middle name is Dallas. Seriously. His postdoctoral work was in biomedical informatics at the University of Michigan. His research focuses on data simplification to improve clinical outcomes, engaging administrators, clinicians, and patients. His recent research success was in simplifying, at least to the extent possible, the transition from International Classification of Disease version 9, clinical modification to ICD-10-CM. Sorry, my delicate voice is a little hoarse today. His work in that has been cited over 200 times in different news publications. Another area of data simplification is designing patient engagement tablet-based applications in cardiology and oncology to improve medication adherence through empowering patients. Last spring, Andy received the 2015 UIC Rising Researcher of the Year Rising Star Award in Clinical Sciences. The press announcement for his honor stated, Dr. Boyd's work has gained recognition in informatics and medical communities and in academic and professional communities and has had a palpable impact upon the scholarship, industry, and policy. His research is helping to transform healthcare. Andy is a highly sought after interdisciplinary collaborator. His work helps move the needle through scholarly innovations in the optimization of health informatics for improved patient outcomes, cost effectiveness, and patient safety. He has collaborated with researchers at least 5 major research institutions and investigators in 5 of the UIC Health Sciences campus colleges. All I can say is he really knows how to pick them in pharmacy. Dr. Boyd, we welcome you to the seminar.
So, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for the College of Pharmacy, the Center for Clinical and Translational Sciences. Thank you, Stephanie, for the wonderful, warm introduction. I'm the one up here giving the talk. This is a result of something called the science of team science. Per protocol, I have all my wonderful collaborators at the end of the slide, but if you think I'm the only one who did this up here, these challenges are hard. We need multiple perspectives. We need different colleges. And so the project, Stephanie and I were both funded, as well as many others, from the McKesson Foundation for their grant for Mobilizing for Health. So this was a grant-funded opportunity where we were able to pull in people from a number of different colleges and students from across campus. So the challenges of mobile health app development. Everyone says, great, we can give it to the patient. Well, that's good, but how many of you have a smartphone? Raise your hands. All right, does anyone want to admit to owning a feature phone? Anyone? Okay. Our patient population here at University of Illinois at Chicago have about 50% feature phones.
Those are dumb phones. Not smartphones.
No touch screens. And to tell you who we're developing for, out of the 19 recruited, 2 of them have landlines. They don't even have a cell phone to be reached. So, although you've all been digital natives and you all have touch screens that you're using all the time, remember, our patient population and the ones we're developing for are a little bit different. So beginning with that. So introduction, 1 in 4 deaths in the US is due to cancer. Cancer is a widespread challenge. It is a leading cause of death. Oral anti-cancer medications, ones that patients can take at home, patients love them. They don't have to come to the outpatient pharmacy or to the doctor's office. I'm going to try to stay here so they can record me. I like to wander. But they love taking them because they can stay at home. They don't have to drive to the doctor's office, to the hospital every single day of a week or 5 days out of 7 days out of the week. So there's convenient. They don't have to get stuck with needles. They don't need catheters. Well, these are new medications, and anyone who's read a newspaper knows new medications are expensive. These are really expensive, $10,000 a month. Complex regimens, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Oh, by the way, every month, depending on how you respond, sometimes the dosage changes. And the side effects, well, it's chemotherapy. I mean, it makes people sick. The side effects are troublesome. What do we do about them? So, C. Everett Koop, probably one of the most famous U.S. Surgeon Generals for the United States, said drugs don't work in patients who don't take them. So how do we get them to actually take their medication? This is cancer. You would think that they would be highly motivated to take their medication. So how do you engage patient behavior to the prescribed regimen, timing, dosage, and frequency? Adherence is anywhere between 16 to 100%, depending on the citation. And according to publications, up to 10% of patients never pick up their oral anti-cancer medications. So when you come back to the oncologist the following month, if they haven't taken their medication and you don't see any difference in their cell counts or their cancer is continuing to progress, getting patients engaged in their own care, explaining this is a huge challenge. Existing tools for patient education. You need to be informative. You need to be culturally appropriate. If you've ever been to the websites, WebMD, you're talking about a 10th grade reading level. And one of my other projects, the average reading level of the University of Illinois patients is 7th to 8th grade for health literacy. So we are not talking about multiple college degrees. Low health literacy have been routinely excluded in studies and designs. And while we're recording this, the wonderful consent form, that's template, that's 7 pages long. I've never asked the IRB what the reading level for that is. So we function at a graduate level reading. The way we communicate, we have nice long sentences. We're eloquent. This isn't how the rest of the world communicates. Lots of people have mobile health tools. And the point where you go to Apple Store or Google Play, you can download lots and lots of apps. There's disease-specific ones, health promotion, exercise more, eat well. Generic medication management, CVS and Walgreens have apps to help you refill for every medication that's prescribed by the FDA. But this person who's taking a diabetic drug is going to need slightly different education and motivation than people taking oral anti-cancer medicines. There are apps to describe symptom management. There are patient provider and branded tools. Some drug manufacturers build their own app for their medication to help you. But none of these reach into the electronic health record and really customize to you. In today's day and age, why are we talking about disease-specific education apps? We should know the dosage, we should know the regimen, we should be able to provide all of that to you on a tablet device. Well, the reason why they don't do it on the Apple Play Store and all the others is then they have to deal with HIPAA. So it's a nice business venture when you can just sell it and never have to worry about HIPAA. So the purpose of this research was to design and build a customized patient-centered mobile application. We were trying to engage patients in their own care. We want to use patient narratives. Just telling someone to do something isn't the same as giving them an example through patient stories. How can we send text messages? Every time you talk to someone as an app developer, any clinician I've ever encountered says, oh, I build mobile apps. And they all go, great, I love sending messages to the patients. My next response is, do you want a message every day from someone? They're like, no. Well, the patients are the same way. So sending messages to patients has to be a nudge. It can't be sending the same message day after day after day. I'm not the only one who said this. Ben Gerber, there are lots of others, Lisa Sharp, are all doing research in this area. There is an art, and finessing it just to the right way is a challenge. Audiovisuals are great, but they're hard to develop. And we also want to increase adherence and improve patient-clinician. So concerns about health for chronic conditions. And cancer is a chronic condition because you're probably going to be living with it for the rest of your life. Patient concerns. Is this really what my doctor said? Technology failure. What happens if the message doesn't get through to me? If you're in the doctor's office and the tablet fails, that's one thing, but what happens when you go home? Small buttons. I have the tablets right over here. These are big screens. We've deliberately chosen large formats because trying to get readable text on these little things for people with poor eyesight is hard. Everyone wants to put it on a phone, but we've deliberately chosen a larger screen. Cost to use. The new tablets, Walmart about every 6 months has a sale. You can buy Android tablets for $20 or $40 as they discontinue them before they go on to the next model. They're not the biggest and fanciest, but the cost has continued to plummet. Provider concerns. Every major provider, when you talk about sending messages or communicating with the patients, they say, I don't need another inbox. Who's going to review the data? Is this going to change my workflow? Heaven forbid that they have to do something else or be worried about something else. How much does it cost? It would be nice if people take their medication, but if it costs us too much. So these are the overall general concerns about mobile app development. Also one reason why you probably don't see apps all over the place. Mobilizing for Patient Adherence to Cancer Therapies was a team-based design philosophy. Myself and Stephanie were the PIs on the project. We met with Dr. Nita Vempatelli, Dr. Scott Worth, and Sandra Kuhler, two pharmacists. And we had a biomedical visualization student meet with them. What are the top 5 things you want patients to know about medication adherence? And she met with each of them one-on-one. So she had a list of 5. And of course, you talk to 3 professionals, you never get the same 5 list. So then we brought everyone together. We took the list and tried to resolve the differences. So we went through meetings after meetings. Now, this is the same team who treats patients on a day-to-day basis. They work together, they have nice working relationships. However, it wasn't to the 3rd or 4th meeting where we actually realized we had a different vocabulary. One team member was saying one thing, one team member was saying the other, and after we realized the difference in professional vocabulary, were we able to come to an agreement on what we wanted to educate the app on. As you work in clinic, as you work with patients, realize it's not like you're contradicting the doctor or the doctor is contradicting the pharmacist. We're all trained in different ways. Synthesizing this to a single message is hard. So that's why it takes a team. The group selected features, and the other thing, and I don't know if you've ever realized, most half-hour TV shows now are only 22 minutes. If you're building a tailored patient education app and hoping to go more than 22 minutes, good luck. We don't have the attention span. The young kids who have apps all the time, they might have a few minutes, but at least for most adults, hoping for a 20-minute educational app and limiting it to 4 key concepts was the way we took. The 4 key concepts. Dosage. The fact that the dosage of the medication can change month to month. For oral anti-cancer medications, you might be taking 2 one month, 1 the next, 3 the next. Some people may never change, others do. What happens? When you leave the doctor's office, you sometimes forget. You might be using an old bottle. You might be swapping out bottles. These things, reminding them of this. Schedule. On-off medications. Patients don't like stopping medications that are killing the cancer cells. If you're supposed to take it for 3 weeks and 1 week off, lots of times they call the pharmacist. Sometimes they cut the pills in half so they can keep taking it. Sometimes they want to kill the cancer cells. Normally, we keep taking the medication until you're done. Side effects. What are the side effects of the medication? What are the side effects of the chemotherapy? What are the side effects of the cancer? What are the side effects of all the other medications they're taking? And also for getting the refill. So, we have patient stories. Pedro was someone with a complex schedule and he wanted to keep taking it. Actually building these stories, and then he called the pharmacy at the end of 3 weeks to say, hey, I ran out of medicines. And the pharmacist reassured him to say, don't worry, you're off for a week, then we'll come back and fill you another one. But coming up with patient stories about how other people have dealt with these barriers in a culturally appropriate way, as well as keeping it less than a 6th grade reading level, is hard. We went through multiple revisions because the oncologist had different concerns than the pharmacist. And representing the multiple professions in a single app was what we agreed upon. This wasn't vote by majority rule, this was consensus. If we didn't have consensus, we couldn't move on. We also wanted to say, oh, don't worry, you're missing a week. We wanted to give them firsthand experiences. The other thing is pictures. We can't just go off online and download any pictures. Who has the copyrights? When you're building apps, who has the copyright is one of the challenges. We were fortunate, University of Illinois Hospital has a photo library. Reach out to the press department, but if you look at the pictures, they're the same ones running the halls in the hospitals. So they have cancer, they have hypertension, they have diabetes. These patients have lots of diseases, but finding a source that you can use is a challenge, especially when you want culturally appropriate and sensitive pictures. Additional features. We wanted to list the specific drug and common side effects. Calendaring. As we said, we wanted to send text messages to them on a regular schedule. And this isn't unlike some text messaging apps. We didn't want to just say, please remember to take your medication. We wanted to say, don't forget to stop, name of drug on this date. That's personal health information. That's another talk about securing this in a way that IRB and everyone else would actually allow us to send PHI over text messaging. But because, of course, their first answer was, no, you can't do this. But that's a security talk, not a patient motivation talk. We also made animation. How do you explain these complex topics? The animations were created by Grace, who was one of our Viva students who worked on the project. She helped design it, work with it. Animations were about side effects, just helping to explain what everyone knows what side effects are, but realizing that, hey, you're not a doctor. Let's talk to someone. Let's figure out what the cause is. How can we fix it? Maybe there's another medication, maybe a changing dose, on, off. Many of you might be pharmacists. You might say with food and without food on a daily basis. You'd be surprised for the patient advisors and the patients we recruited, even when they've taken oral anti-cancer meds. What is the definition of with food? What is the definition without food? Many of these patients are nauseous. They don't eat a full meal. How much food is enough to be able to take the medication is? If you're nauseous or if you're on chemotherapy and you're eating little itty bitty snacks, what does it mean without food? Having videos to help explain these concepts in a routine, systematic way was what we have done. Patient stakeholders. I've talked about meeting with a team of clinicians, which is great, but none of us had actually been diagnosed with cancer and none of us actually had taken the medications that we're prescribing, to my knowledge. So they had not disclosed it if they had. So none of us had firsthand experience. So we actually had 3 different concepts: the different color schemes, the different fonts. You want high contrast so it's readable, but do you like the icons? Does it become too busy? How do you view these things? Everyone had unique perspective. You can't design something, hand it to a patient and say, oh, do you like it or not? When we were even selecting the colors, we brought in patient stakeholders and said, hey, what's going on? Do you like this concept 1, concept 2, concept 3, even following common design, you many times uncover new things that people hadn't seen before. One of the challenges we had, if you look at the patient stories, those are huge stories. Shorter is better. They wanted it to be as condensed as humanly possible. So we made some changes, and we actually created new problems in the next round of feedback. We had problems. We wanted to show realism. So we had a video that was how chemotherapy kills cancer cells. And Grace, as a great biomedical visualization student, created a great video about the realism about how senescence and cells dying and stuff like that. Unfortunately, one of the patient stakeholders, after seeing the video, or didn't even finish, in the middle of it just turned and almost vomited in the conference room. The bubbling of the cells created a nauseous response. There was no way we could have guessed that. Fortunately, it wasn't actually in the clinic. Fortunately, we learned these things. So engaging patients early, you can't anticipate these things. When you ask patients, do you want cartoonish symbolism or do you want realism? Everyone asks for realisms. So let me see. If the video works, great. If not, I will. The voiceover is not projecting, so for people who can't read. So is it super duper fancy? Do we have space planes coming in? Is it like modern movies? No. We tried to create a short narrative that sent the message. That's the final product. How you justify taking a week off being medically accurate but not oversimplifying is hard. So your body needs a rest. We don't talk about toxicity levels. We don't talk about all of the pharmacology behind it. We just say a body needs a rest. I wish to say that the team was smart enough to come up with that phrase day one, but we went through a number of cycles. So again, when you're building apps in order to engage and motivate patients in complex treatment, it takes iteration. This isn't something you sit down and do overnight. Take without food. Let's see. This one works, then.
If not, maybe you could read it to me.
Okay. I actually have it on the desktop too. So again, are these concepts complex? Not really. 1 hour before, 2 hours after. But how do you provide a visualization? How do you provide it in a way that patients can understand? And again, the ones we showed the videos to, they're like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. Meaning, again, as you visualize the information, you want to give them the information they need in a way that's understandable. You don't want to talk down to them. You want to empower them to control their own medication, to enable them to do the best that they can. And in both of these videos and throughout the entire app, there's a voiceover narrator. And I'm sorry, the voiceover is not projecting here. So we will, if you want, we can show it to you later on the apps. So we talk to the patient stakeholders. Elderly patients are good at being self-appointed physicians. Oh, well, this is the side effect of this medication. Let me stop. Those of you have patients on multiple medications, they're not all taking them as you are prescribing them many times. So When asked if the live footage instead of animation, they didn't want to see live actors with cancer. We could just have as easily filmed it, but they see themselves every day. And they were also concerned about doctors intimidating people. They were friendly and approachable. Again, we're not trying to scare them into taking their medication. I worked on other heart failure or heart diseases where one of the research projects actually had pharmacists yelling at the patients about how they were going to die without taking it. Yelling might make you feel good, but it isn't really going to help the patients a whole lot. The video we showed you about the on-off, the first time the pill had a nice little cape on it. Well, like a Superman. But we thought it was a nice representation of the pills are doing really important stuff. But the stakeholders didn't really like that. Cutesy was the term they used. Animation had a face and is wearing a kit. But again, how friendly do you make it? How engaged? And the facial features it looked like you were swallowing a kid. So we don't. Again, we laugh, but when you're in the middle of building these things, these aren't the thoughts you have. That's why you need to engage the patients. If nothing else from this talk, if you're building things to engage patients, talk to them. The idea looked away, made her feel nauseous. The bubbling, I meant that. The first two stakeholders really thought the animations were positive, were seen as fun and humorous, and we're trying to help motivate them. We want to stay positive even though it's very, very serious. Another challenge that we had is between realism and generic information. I talked to you about patient stories, telling them about how someone would call the pharmacy after they stopped their medication at the end of 3 weeks, or Stan with side effects. He wanted to know, was the medication causing the side effects or the cancer was causing the side effects? When we began, we wanted to be as real as possible. So all of those patient stories had actual drug names. So if they had colon cancer, they had the specific drug name. However, once we actually built the app, sent it through the clinicians, all the others, they were like, oh my goodness, we're talking about one drug, but all the patient stories are about other drugs. So we actually had to go back, rewrite all the patient stories for generic oral anti-cancer medications. We had gone through storyboards, we had gone through multiple reviews, but until it was presented in a tablet format, we didn't realize we were sending conflicting messages. So even the best laid design ended up sending conflicting concerns. Voiceover audio. We tried to write all of these at a 6th grade reading level. I think occasionally we got up to 6.7, 7th grade. It's really hard, especially when you're dealing with FDA-approved names or even oncologist or cancer. However, the voiceover allows people who can't read or people who normally could read, but they just got a diagnosis of cancer to understand and appreciate the information. We got an actor from LAS, and however, they were great at pronunciation, but they didn't know how to pronounce the name of the drugs. We actually had to send them audios of the proper pronunciation of both the trade name and the generic name. And we deliberately listed both all throughout the app because there is no common agreed upon. You can't be sure the doctor will always use the trade name or the generic name. So the voiceover is great. However, every time we changed any text, we'd have to bring him back. I mean, he loves coming, he gets paid. But again, it's another design, it's another upgrade. And you're like, oh, just get one of the robots to talk the text. It's not quite as fluent, it doesn't sound. The other thing, which was if you play around with the app long enough, the recording studio actually improved from our first take to the 4th take. They installed soundproofing. So the background noise in the later audio takes is actually better. So if you have a cute ear, obviously for commercializing, we'll record everything, but even improvements of the audio recording equipment or the room itself can change the app. And instead of scheduling another 4-hour session with him to record every single drug and dosage and all that, we've just left it in. But recording studio changes can affect the app itself. Here's a list of some of the drugs we provide. I did this just to show you, we do have a demonstration mode, so we can show you all the drugs and the side effects that they actually present. We do assign all the patients a unique 4-digit number, so once you start the app, it will be customized based on the data in the server. So we will have medication dosage, start date, on, off, with and without food, all the information to drive it home. However, once the app is done, the PHI disappears. So we do have a demonstration mode just to show you what we have without dealing with PHI. So side effects was another challenge. If you haven't, one of these days for any medication, look at the full laundry list of side effects for any prescribed medication approved by the FDA. They're long. They get attached to most of the bottles. This is the size of the screen. We didn't want to make a scroll bar forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So we worked with the pharmacists to find a list of the 5 common side effects per OAM. So the FDA has the official list, but most patients don't read the entire list, or even if they do, remembering all of them to say, hey, this is one of the side effects, is hard. We do include a disclaimer down here saying this is not a complete list. This is not replacing the FDA list. But finding the clinicians as well as the physicians and the pharmacists to agree upon what are the 5 most common is hard. Which are the ones should they be looking for? Which ones, again, and the idea wasn't just to say, well, 5 is the magic number. We don't want 20, and so you have to keep it short. Some side effects were easy. Vomiting, everyone hopefully knows what vomiting is. Some side effects are hard. Skin sloughing. If you say skin sloughing to a patient, they don't really know what sloughing means. So we actually had to come up with a description that extended what sloughing was. When one of the patients who consented to look at it, who actually had skin sloughing, they said, yes, that's what I had. I was like, how would you describe it? Oh, well, no, that's all. So they couldn't come up with a better description of skin sloughing. But for patients who might have this, these are hard concepts. Originally, we had the wonderful idea of having little icons and pictures of all the side effects. But fortunately, we stepped away from that. Vomiting, diarrhea. But you want to drill home the messages. But again, these are trade-offs. The layout of the table of contents. How do we want people to navigate this? Originally, we began with the patient stories. This is one of the key aspects of our program that we thought was unique compared to everyone else. So we began with that. However, in our stakeholder groups, everyone went to my medication. They clicked my medication. So we had to completely reorder the table of contents because my medication, my calendar, are more important to people than what are the common reasons for stopping the medication. So they wanted their own information. And because this is mostly like a storybook, and it can go linear, but because it's an app, you can bounce around in different ways. So again, how you lay these things out, how you actually navigate them is a challenge. And patients will navigate however they want. So even if you think you have the best way, many times they'll come back and say, no. Security. University of Illinois at Chicago Hospital System has an official policy of no PHI on mobile devices. I don't for operations. I'm sorry, you'll have to go ask them if that policy is still there. But the data is stored on an ACCC HIPAA secure server. The only time it's on the tablet is when a patient is working on it. And if the patient steals the tablet, well, we lose a tablet, but it's not a HIPAA violation. A patient can have their own data. But since you only restrict the data on the tablet to a single patient and the patient in front of them, HIPAA is a lot different. So how you navigate the policies or the blanket policies, all mobile devices have to be encrypted. Really? There are lots of blanket policies which are designed to protect information and protect the safety of information. But we want to provide the information to the patients at the point of care. When we were talking to ACCC, they're really nice people and they really want to secure the data. And when they first talked about the server, we were going to put the server there, do the analysis, and call it a day. I was like, well, no, we wanted to give it back to the patient. Well, pushing data out of a secure area wasn't exactly in their security paradigm. I don't know, Stephanie, what was that, 3 or 4 meetings? So the idea of security locks things down. Most of my research is trying to pull it out and give it to people with the appropriate consent and regulations. But it's their data. You're telling it to them anyways. So these are, and again, the security paradigm and along those lines is different. I'll be happy to give you a talk and walk you through that. I have great collaborators. Eugene, who's here, also helped us with that as well. Challenge, take-home message. Remember when I told you way back in the beginning the stories were too long? Well, we took it home and said, you know what, we can spread it over 2 screens. And so we put the major story here, and then we put the little button take-home message. During one of the feedback sessions, no one clicked on the take-home message. No one knew what it was. So we changed it to continue. In the next iteration, they all clicked on it. Same button, just different text. So the second screen was the important piece of information. It was the take-home message. We all knew what it was. Put it in front of a patient. Again, we've been doing this for years. I wish if we knew all this ahead of time, it would have saved us a lot of time and effort, but we don't always. So we did a recruitment in the oncology pharmacy, in the oncology clinic this summer. In the month of August, we were able to recruit 19 patients there. They all had taken, or one of the requirements was they had to have taken an oral anti-cancer medication at some point. So they had to have lived it. We weren't showing them their own medication because we weren't quite ready for that. We wanted to make sure that we weren't just driving them home. We recruited 11 men, 8 women. Not quite even, but pretty darn close. Large African American, 8 of them, 7 Caucasians, 3 Hispanics. Overall, it was very positive feedback. Specific comments. We had someone who had a tablet with them in the waiting room, in the clinic, who loved her tablet. She said, I love my iPad. And she said, this isn't advanced enough. I don't know if this project would ever meet her needs. She was not the target demographic. Could she use a simpler app? Yes. Does she want more features? Yes. But we would miss too many other patients. Many of them wanted to know, hey, when can we use this in the waiting room? It's better than the TV they have on. They saw how deploying this into a pharmacy, giving it to them while they're waiting for the doctor or the nurse, would be helpful. Many of them passed on the concerns about the lack of tech-savvy older patients. All the older people who actually consented for this project were able to use it fine, but lots of younger people said, I don't think my mom or dad could use it. We deliberately tried to keep everything simple. We're not using double click, we're not using click and drag, we're not having them race cars or stuff like that. We're trying to just use the basic functionality of the tablet. One of the participants liked the information, but at the end of the day, they liked the doctor and the pharmacist. Y'all can provide comfort. You can say, hey, we understand what you're going through. We never designed the app to become, we designed it to be positive and to help reinforce, but the app can't comfort people the same way doctors and pharmacists can. And that's what they really liked about it. We tried to explain to all the participants, this isn't to replace your pharmacist and your doctor. This is just a add-on. But some of them really thought this was going to replace them. Many of the participants also discussed how the patient stories were relatable. They had either forgotten a refill, they had problems with side effects. Some of them were like, oh, on and off. Oh, of course, I understood everything. His wife was sitting there next to him, shaking her head. No, but again, when we had families Although we consented the patient, we made sure that the whole family could experience the app. So we recorded information from all of them. We asked the patient, do you mind if your spouse or partner sits next to us? None of them asked the partner to leave. But again, they all had different reactions. Some of the partners were the ones who were in charge of taking the medication. So, future directions. Hopefully soon we'll be submitting the IRB for a randomized control trial, see if we actually increase medication adherence with the patient's own health data. I'll tell you in a few months if the IRB signs off on our security paradigm for sending text messages. I believe we've met the legal requirements. Whether or not we meet the ethical requirements, we are trying to meet patients where they are. In cancer, oral anti-cancer medications is life and death. So the small security risks we're exposing might be worth helping encourage them to take their medication. We have a fine line. We're at the beginning of tablets. We're at the beginning. Most younger students, probably most graduate students, are what we call digital natives. You've been around computers your whole life. You've had tablets, heck, the internet's probably just something you've lived with. We have a lot of patients who've never actually used a tablet before. So building something that reaches both audiences is hard, but we have to walk the fine line. As I told you before, one of them said, this isn't sophisticated enough, I want more. I talked to other people who said, I want to record every time I take my medication. Those are great ideas, but again, we're trying to meet most people. And as we get more money, we hope to roll out to additional locations in different pharmacies. Can we actually take data from different pharmacies? Although it was developed for a University of Illinois patient population, does it roll out to other patient populations? What do we need to swap out? And going from there. As I said, this isn't just me. Anyone who comes up to you and tells you they can build one of these all by themselves, don't trust them. Run away as fast as you can. Dr. Crawford, Dr. Vempatelli is oncologist. Dr. Puri and Dr. Worth are pharmacists. Ed Wing is the statistician on the project. In the College of Applied Health Sciences, Donna Hughes was one of the committee members for Grace Sue, who has graduated and now is working in Peoria. Ashwin, who was a third-year medical student right now, built the database in the app itself. The biomedical visualization student just built out the storyboards. Claire Hashmat was an undergraduate working with us over the summer. She helped consent the patients. Gennaro, I don't think he's here, was a PharmD student who helped us with the pharmacy information and helping Grace just synthesize all the information. We have about 12 drugs with all the side effects and the dosings and the pictures and all the others. We have pictures of the drugs as well. And Joe Schaefer is the voiceover person. And we'd like to thank the McKesson Foundation and Versalius Trust for providing us funding for this project. So thank you so much, and we have time for questions.
I'm Dilip Gandhi. I'm the Associate Professor of Neurology.
Okay.
College of Medicine. I do the similar work. We have the CDC funded through the PRC mechanism doing the self-management of epilepsy. We have developed the app. We do the internet-connected tablet, so I can talk about lots of challenges, institutional challenges. So, and what we have gone through. So it is almost a 5 years project. We are in the second year completing it. But we have developed, the question comes, I agree with you, we have all kinds of patients. They don't have any access to any self-management, any health literacy, any health education. So we give them the literacy test, just like a reading test, that they should be able to say at grade level. And my research assistant actually contacted you for the development one time.
Oh, okay.
We can develop, so you suggested something.
Sorry.
But we have developed by the just our computer science lab has developed a very nice computerian science program. But many things you talk, how you work with this tablet in your project that you're trying, just in the clinic, or you are giving it to them?
Okay. The question for people who aren't So we do have a few people. Where is the tablet planning to be deployed?
Deployed, yeah.
Yes.
Implementation.
So for this project, as it stands right now, it would be in the physician's office or the pharmacy office. Right now, the security paradigm of actually sending it to them home is not something that we're able to do. Is that a direction we'd like to go in the future? Yes, but unfortunately, if the university buys tablets and you let someone take it home,
We do.
no, I know, but the CIO of different colleges is more flexible than less flexible. And
No, we are doing this. We just purchased through the ACC, ACCC, we pay, we take them. That's what the only thing is, that these people don't have any internet connection. If you want to take it home, they don't have Wi-Fi. So you have to give them to take it home. And in our 1 year, we have not lost a single tablet. Everybody uses it for 10 to 12 weeks. They return the tablet back because these are all our patients. But we are going to implement in the community through the Epilepsy Foundation and to see how it works in the community, not our patients. And are we successful in implementing them?
Other people who've used tablet devices with patients who let them bring them home, the patients themselves have always returned the tablet. The other researcher, the only time they've ever lost one was when a sibling or a relative stole it and they felt bad. So I have no problem letting them take it home. So the theft of the device isn't the biggest concern. But you're right, ACCC and the security paradigms can be solved. At some point, we would like to take it home, but we're not there yet.
The only problem is that somehow one of our patients hacked our kiosk program and what had happened and has built $7,000 data charges on us. So we are investigating it with the Verizon. So these things can happen. We can share all these horror stories.
Oh, yes.
But out of 35 patients we have used, only one has happened. It doesn't happen all the time.
Okay.
We can find it.
All right, another question.
I have a question about your thoughts on having the cancer patients a part of the design, UX design, like as you're developing it, as opposed to it being developed and then putting it out afterwards.
The question was about user-centered design or patient participatory design. I'm a firm believer as soon as you can get patients involved in the development project, you do. I have a cardiology app where I was not even at the storyboard phase. We were at the point of an outline. And I talked to the patients and they looked at me and laughed. And so we actually have a paper published about how we completely reordered the app and how we were going to interface it. And that one, ask me afterwards, the paper's about to come out, how much we improve medication adherence. Because this is being recorded, and pre-announced, but it was good. It was a pilot, but it was good. So engaging patients, because we have great ideas, but they don't all hit reality. The surprising part is for consumer health, user-centered design is such an established field in computer science. There is an ISO, an International Standards Organization packet. So user-centered design has its own international standard about how you would adhere to user-centered design. All the people developing consumer health apps or consumer health things that are sold seem to have missed this part of computer science. But as much as you can involve, as comfortable as you are, they're not designers, but they will tell you this isn't going to work. So, and there are things that they will tell you that are great ideas, and you say, I can't do it on this project. So I would advise anyone doing this, engaging community partners, patients, however you can, as soon as you can when you're developing these things. They will provide you perspectives you can't imagine. Next question.
Hi, I work with Dr. Haney as well on a similar project. I'm just wondering about engagement, especially you talked about maybe giving it to the participants to take home.
Yeah.
Are you worried that they won't use it, or do you have a way of tracking it, or is there some incentive for them to use it?
Patients, well, first of all, 71% of all of the US population search for health data online in a given year. People are starved for information. If they don't use it, they don't use it. You're correct, this is an app. Every click, time spent on each slide, all of that's recorded. So if we do send it home, yes, as part of a research project, you will consent them that yes, everything you do on the tablet will be recorded. We actually record their voice in order to engage them in active learning. That was one aspect of this I haven't actually shown. But yes, you track it. But again, we give out all sorts of patient education pamphlets and we have no idea if they do anything. Next question. And back. Yeah.
I have two questions. First is, what were the demographics of your participants, and have you ever considered having people with disabilities as your participants to make it more accessible on your app or on your
The demographics were here. So disability and making it ADA compliant is another. So we deliberately had voiceover for people who couldn't read, people who are unable to actually touch the tablet. I have not seen the voice navigation for tablet apps. I do know that is a limitation. Again, this is the first phase of a pilot. We're not there yet. Before you commercialize something, this is a direction that would need to be addressed. And your second question? Oh, okay. There was another one right in front.
Yeah, on a similar vein, given the population that you're looking at and who might be served by something like this, have you considered translation and any of the issues that come from textual versus conceptual translation?
We would love to translate. Most of the time for these types of projects, you have to show it's effective in English before grantors will give you money to translate to Spanish. But all of this is designed where the text can be swapped out. We do new audio recording, and so it's that we design the apps for the future, but for the initial project, we need to show effectiveness.
Sort of as a follow-on to that, would you think that you would need to go back to the patient engagement phase, given that you would be translating into a different language, or?
We probably would. I find, as I said, as frequently as you can, as much as the grant allows, and if you find depends on your collaborators, some people like to meet with you multiple times and you get to be friends with them, and others are like, I see you once and they never see you again. So again, it depends on how you work. I mean, there isn't, for the Heart app program, we actually had the same people time and time again. They're almost like friends. Here we use different people every time. There's no right way, but it does however you best work. But yes, reaching out to them to make sure the number of poor translations that may or may not be appropriate. I mean, it might be certified by a Spanish-speaking medical translator, but if it's just completely off base, then we wouldn't be hitting our target.
Thank you very much
Okay.
for the great presentation.